Okay, welcome back to another episode of Banking Without Borders. So the travel season is now upon us, and a lot of people will be spending money in a foreign currency this summer, which can unfortunately lead to wasting money in fees. And a lot of people are going to look to Revolut and WISE in order to avoid this. So Jan and I want to ask the question, which of these two is the best choice? We've looked at their fees, studied their exchange rates, and compared the two, and I think you'll be pretty shocked by the results. We'll also compare them with the wider market, including both the UK and Europe, because I think it's important to not only ask which is the best of the two, but are they the best of the bunch? So Jan, should we just begin with what happens when you're in a foreign country, you're spending in the foreign currency, and you transact with one of these cards?
Then a currency conversion takes place, and that's when both providers charge a fee. Although something to mention upfront, they have two vastly different ways of charging these fees. WISE, they guarantee the true mid-market rate. No embedded exchange rate margin, but then they charge a variable fee that starts at typically 0.3%, depending on the currency pair you want to exchange. What I like about this is it's very transparent, this is highly visible. You see it within the app, you see it on the website, you always know how much fees they charge. It's great. Revolut, on the other hand, they use their own exchange rate. They call it the Revolut rate, which is, somewhat a good rate, not the mid-market rate. There's an exchange rate margin embedded, but it's definitely a way of charging fees. On top of that, they apply a 1% fee on weekends if you're using Revolut Standard, and there's a 1% fair usage fee if you cross £1,000 in monthly spending in a foreign currency with Revolut Standard. That's when Revolut Standard can get really expensive. As an example, we've looked at how much it costs to spend £2,000 in a foreign currency. Let's start with the USA. If you use WISE, £6.98. Revolut Standard, on the other hand, £15.60. And if you're subscribed to one of Revolut's premium tiers, Revolut Premium and above actually, then they do not have this £1,000 limit. You can use the Revolut rate as much as you want, and the fee will be £5.60. Thailand, £12.52. With Revolut Standard, £17.66. And Revolut Premium and above, £7.66. Now this gets really interesting. Look, Morocco. It's insanely expensive to spend money in Morocco, apparently, with both of these providers. WISE charges a 1.9% fee, and that leads to £38.06 in fees if you spend £2,000 in Morocco. Revolut Standard, that would be £27.70, and with Revolut Premium and above, that's £17.70, which is still a lot. Indonesia, WISE charges £9.35, Revolut Standard £16.50, and Revolut Premium and above £6.50. And now this gets really interesting, because in Australia, Revolut is almost used as the mid-market rate. It's quite close. Definitely the closest in our test. WISE charges £6.38 for spending £2,000 in Australia. Revolut Standard, £11.98, and Revolut Premium and above, £1.98. So it's literally just £2 when spending £2,000 in Australia, and at that point it's almost a mid-market rate, to be fair.
I was just going to say, I think it's important to note that the mid-market rate and the data that we've collected for this table, and we'll put the data in a spreadsheet and we'll stick it in the YouTube description, or it'll be in the episode notes if you're listening to this so you can access it. This was recorded as of the 9th of June. So, these rates that Jan has just described to you, they might change, but that was the data that we collected at the time of recording from both Revolut and WISE's websites. Sorry, buddy, carry on.
It's all good.
Conclusion.
Johnny, I think it's fair to say that if you're spending less than £1,000, Revolut Standard has a clear edge compared to WISE. It's just cheaper. And if you're spending more than £1,000, it's probably more clever to look at WISE, because they don't have this 1% fee that applies after spending £1,000 in a foreign currency. If you subscribe to Revolut Premium or above, just choose Revolut over WISE. It's typically cheaper. Yeah. We've made the math. You can save a lot of money that way. But both of these providers, I think it's fascinating that they still, depending on obviously where you spend your money, but let's say in Morocco, they still charge quite a lot of money for spending your money abroad. And I think it's fascinating, considering the fact that they're marketed as travel cards, right, Johnny?
Yeah, and I'm kind of smiling here because is anybody else a little bit confused? Have we lost anybody that's listening to this or watching this? Trying to make this relatively straightforward, and I'm not, accusing you of being stupid by no means, but somewhat confusing, right, when you're trying to work this out across multiple plans. And that's a shame, isn't it? Yeah, and it's the fact that it has to be this complicated. We'll talk about some alternatives shortly to these two providers that we would say are better. And one of the reasons we think that is because they make it more straightforward. It's just a matter of transacting. You're not having to think about whether it's the weekend. You're not having to think about whether you're going to pay 1% because you've just gone across your £1,000 or euro threshold. WISE are arguably pretty straightforward, although the variable fee that they charge will be different across various currencies. And of course, the Moroccan dirham is more volatile, so it is more expensive. And you will have that same issue with MasterCard or Visa's exchange rates. Also in WISE's further defense, they are a free card. Yeah, and Revolut are to get those better rates at least, are charging you for access. And at the same time, unlike WISE, they're not giving you the mid-market rate either. They're still making an exchange rate margin. I think that's a damn shame. I think Revolut should offer a favorable exchange rate as well, perhaps like the mid-market rate. You unlock the interbank rate if you have premium, metal, or ultra. I mean, personally, I think they should offer the interbank rate anyway and just have like a small variable fee like WISE. I think that model is pretty solid. It's less confusing, but the same thing is happening with the ATM withdrawals. It is a bit convoluted and it isn't obviously free, like a lot of the providers we'll talk about later in the episode. WISE come out as the better provider with ATM fees when you withdraw less than £250 because WISE are going to charge you 2.69% if you go across that figure. If you're using Revolut Standard, you have up to £200 of fee-free ATM withdrawals. Beyond that, you pay 2% or a minimum of £1 or €1, whichever comes first. So ultimately, WISE are the better provider for low-value monthly withdrawals. As you go up the Revolut tiers, that does change slightly because premium, metal and ultra are offering you more. It goes all the way up from 400 to 800 to £2,000 or €2,000 of fee-free ATM withdrawals. But what's shocking here, Jan, is you're talking about Revolut Ultra, £55 a month, €55 a month. They're not offering you fee-free ATM withdrawals. You've still got a threshold.
Wow.
That is
right.
That is. I mean, only Revolut can get away with that sort of behavior.
Am I the only one? Are we the only ones
choice.
that are stunned by this? I'd be curious. Please write it into the comments. How can it be that a plan that literally costs a few £100 every single year, what was it? 550 to be exact. How come that still doesn't come with free ATM withdrawals? That's fascinating to me.
And look, if you're gonna withdraw small amounts of money, you're gonna be fine. £100, £200, you're not gonna pay a fee whatsoever. Of course, and we'll talk about this shortly. There might be a fee on exchanging currencies. That's gonna go on top of any ATM fees that you have to pay potentially. But for now, low value, 0 to 200, you're safe. If you withdraw £250 with the Revolut Standard, you're going to then pay a fee of £1. £300, WISE are going to charge you £1.34. Revolut are going to charge you £2. If you go up to £500, WISE are going to charge you £6.72. Revolut then charge you just £6. So Revolut edge WISE there. £1,000, Jan, are you ready for this? WISE charge £20.18 to withdraw £1,000.
Wow.
Revolut charge £16. Now,
That's
buddy, let's talk about what happens if you withdraw money with WISE in Morocco.
Yeah. Let me talk about it. Okay, sorry, I thought you were going to do that. That's in Morocco. It's crazy, right? Because Morocco, we already know it's one of the countries where exchanging money or spending with WISE and exchanging money in the process is most expensive. You have a 1.9% variable fee, which is, if you're withdrawing £1,000, it's £19. And then on top of that, £20 in ATM fees. Wow, you're almost looking at £40, or you're looking at £40 essentially of fees when withdrawing £1,000 in Morocco, which is, to be fair, maybe an edge case, but it's not unrealistic, right? It can happen. I think, Johnny, you were on your honeymoon in Morocco, and you've withdrawn quite a lot of money to go on a boat tour with your wife, and that was paid in cash.
Yes, somewhat. It was Mauritius, but I get your point. Like, you're talking about a potentially volatile exotic currency, which is probably going to be the same thing. Jan's right. Regardless of whether it's in Morocco or somewhere else, somewhere exotic, these fees will start to mount up. There are probably other ways to avoid it, Jan, possibly. You talked previously about sending yourself money. Like, if you're thinking, I'm going to need a large amount of cash in some of these more exotic countries which require more cash payments, maybe you could send yourself money internationally for a cash pickup.
I've done that.
Then go to, a vendor, a hub, and collect the money. That might help. But at these fees, Jan, I just don't think it's wise to use them to withdraw money at a large scale. You'd agree with that, right?
Yeah, especially considering there's so much better alternatives out there that we'll just talk about shortly. To be fair, if you compare both providers to these alternatives, there's one clear advantage, and that's the fact that you can hold money in multiple different currencies. So you can, it might not help you save money essentially, but you can convert, let's say your vacational budget beforehand, and then you know exactly how much you can spend in that specific currency, and you're not subject to, exchange rate variations. It's all set in stone. You know exactly how much you'll be spending on your vacation, and that's great. WISE, they offer over 40 currencies that you can convert money in. I actually went into my app and I counted 43. Revolut, they claim over 30. I counted 31. And what's really interesting is the fact that you can use, with WISE at least, local bank details that they provide to receive money in foreign currencies. So that could be useful for digital nomads, for example. Let's say freelancing and then living in a country where the US dollar is the main currency and they're getting paid in US dollar. They don't have to convert the money at all. They just spend exactly what they receive from that specific pocket, and that's pretty amazing. And I also like to touch on the fact what happens if your balance is not high enough in order to pay for whole purchase, because both providers have a different approach to that. WISE, they use something they call the smart conversion technology. Sounds pretty innovative, pretty fancy, and I think it's pretty useful. Let's say
it is.
You want to buy something that's worth 100 euros in Spain, and you have 50 euros worth of British pounds, and you have 50 euros worth of US dollars. With Revolut, this would get rejected. They have an all or nothing policy. They would convert one currency, but they would not take money out of two different currencies and then just convert those. WISE, on the other hand, they would do that. So they would just go ahead and convert your 50 euros worth of British pounds, 50 euros worth of US dollar. So you have 100 pounds and you can purchase this particular item that you're interested in purchasing, and that's a clear advantage here. Yeah, I could see that happening, maybe you're on a vacation, right? You've almost depleted your budget, but there's one last purchase you want to make at the airport, right? With Revolut, you would have to go in, convert the money from maybe two different balances in order to make that happen. And with WISE, it would happen automatically. I think that's pretty nice.
Let's just have a chat about the alternatives. And I think it provides important context to where Revolut and WISE honestly sit on a broader scale. And I appreciate people are probably listening from outside of the UK. I know people are. We speak to you all the time in the comments. We'll provide some options there, but also some of these providers may or may not be available in your area, your country. And that might be why you choose WISE and Revolut. If you look at what's available in the UK, Jan, and it's free, it's pretty shocking when you consider that Revolut, for example, are charging a fee on certain accounts and not offering or not allowing you to withdraw like an unlimited amount of money. And WISE are obviously charging you a fee above £250. I mean, look at First Direct, for example, in the UK. You get MasterCard's exchange rates, which are more or less on par with the mid-market rate. You get practically unlimited ATM withdrawals. I think it's daily capped at £500. They've even got a switch offer. If you go to depositscout.com and check out our switch offers, you'll see First Direct are offering £200 to switch them right now. And it's a great travel option, right? It's
excellent.
It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be cheaper to transact and withdraw in a foreign currency with First Direct versus Revolut and WISE. There are some other options available. The European Union does have some better options, Jan. You always talk about Trade Republic, right?
Trade Republic, yeah. Clear recommendation if that's available where you live. They're currently available in 18 different countries. That's the clear choice here. Mid-market exchange rate. You get unlimited free ATM withdrawals, although important to keep in mind that withdrawals below 100 euros, they trigger a €1 fee, and you get 1% of something they call SafeBack, basically a kind of cashback feature on up to 1,500 euros in monthly spending. And I think that's extraordinary considering this is a free account. And really like the way their card looks. We can show it on the screen really quick. It's for everyone's listening. It looks like a mirror almost. I think it's stainless steel. It's fancy. It's shiny, beautiful. Really like that, and I love the fact that the card is just free to use internationally, which is a clear advantage over these well-known travel cards.
I don't want to say that WISE and Revolut aren't the right option for you, because it will heavily depend on what's available in your market. Feel free to get into the comments section. We just launched a Discord community as well. I'll put a QR code on the screen you can scan. And if you're listening to this, we'll put a link in the episode notes. It'll be in the description box on YouTube. What compels you to use WISE and Revolut? Because it might just be purely because you don't have better options, and that's fine. But Jan, I think for people that do, I have to ask the question, like, why do you continue to use these providers? Because I don't want people to fall for the marketing. I do want people to know that they are great providers for certain things. Like, I have a WISE business account. I think WISE are a really good platform, but I personally wouldn't be withdrawing money internationally with them or spending money internationally with them. I personally would use, I don't know, I've got a number of cards available to me, but I might use First Direct, for example. We haven't talked about Trading 212, by the way, which I'm sure some people will flag, but they aren't a licensed bank, although arguably neither are WISE, right, Jan? So that could open up a whole can of worms for us. Trading 212 are a great option for spending money internationally. And also, Jan, probably worth mentioning, I know I've sidetracked a little bit, they are actually widely available in the European Union, right? So if you're listening to this, watching this, you're thinking, oh, I was going to use WISE or Revolut this summer, but they make a good point. What alternatives do I have? Well, check out Trading 212's card as well, because that might be available to you. And that is the interbank rate, mid-market rate, right? And no fixed fees. Quite a nice little option. But my point is, I'd just like to hear from people, Jan, that are still compelled to use these cards, these providers, and don't necessarily want to switch, even though they aren't that favorable.
Yeah, what is it? Why is that, right? Convenience, I guess. That's what it comes down to, convenience. And yeah, to be fair, both are okay products,
convenience.
Right?
Why convenience?
Yeah, convenience, because
it's an inconvenience to be charged all these fees.
Exactly, but let's say the average Joe with a budget of £2,000, how much are they realistically going to be spending in fees? £20, £30, maybe £40? Mm-hmm. Is that really worth opening up a new account for? I would say yes, but some people might disagree with that. And that's the point, I think.
Maybe that's the threshold.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the threshold, Jan, where you start to ask questions. If you don't want to be too neurotic about the fees that you're paying, you're willing to just swallow a couple, like a small amount of fees, then I think if you're looking at beyond, right, £2,000 of international spending in a foreign currency, is that the limit? Then you should probably start to ask yourself.
I would do it way before
Obviously,
that,
if you've got
personally.
Revolut Premium or above, yeah.
I would do it way before that.
I know you would.
Yeah, because
I know you would.
Small amounts of money. Just don't spend unnecessary fees. That's all I'm asking everyone. Be clever with your money. It really makes a difference in the long term. Even if these are small amounts, just don't spend fees that you can avoid. Yeah, I hope you had a good time listening, and I'd be curious what you think about that. Please write it into the comments. And as Johnny said, join our Discord community if you have some time. Really looking forward to all these exciting conversations that are already happening in there. Really great, to be honest. And we'll see you in the next episode. It's been a pleasure as always. And Johnny, do you have anything else to say?
No, just come on over to Discord, say hello, become a founding member. Jan and I are there, and we'll see you again soon.
Goodbye.